Hello, welcome to the Vibrant Life podcast. This is the official podcast of the Vibrant Life community, and I'm Sarah Nolan, a burnout prevention and energy management consultant. And I'm here today with Zachary Babcock from Underdog Empowerment, and he went from over 5 years in prison to 6 figures in his business. And he's got his Underdog Empowerment podcast, which is just amazing podcast to help entrepreneurs really step up their game. So thank you so much, Zachary, for being here. So good to have you with us today.
Hey, what is going on, Sarah? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I heard a little bit of your story at a mastermind a couple months ago, and I really liked a lot of aspects that I was hearing within your story about how you overcame something that a lot of people aren't able to overcome, because a lot of it has to do with mental conditioning. And that's something that most people never overcome, mental conditioning. And so I wanted to have you on the show today to talk about your journey with, coming out of prison and really making a life for yourself. And it's, you have a family, right? Like you have kids?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, how many kids do you have?
I have 4, a stepdaughter and 3 of my own.
Yeah. Amazing. How old are they?
My stepdaughter is 10 years old. My twin boys are turning 6 February 20th, and my daughter just turned 1.
Oh, so cute. That's awesome.
Yeah, they only look cute in photos. Till you get to hanging out with them, then you're like, oh my God.
I'm sure they're cute. But what a great example to set for them too, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. They were it was definitely a big turning point for me when I had my first kids. That kind of got me shifted in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a story, just like where you came from and like what exactly that shift was, where you decided, I don't want to be like everybody else, I want to do something a little bit different, and like what helped you to get through that?
Yeah, so I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to do something different. That's how I've been from day one since I can ever remember.
Yeah.
That's why the whole I used to be rebellious. I still am. I was a rebel without a cause. And I'm a rebel with a cause. But so that's just been that. I've always been that way. But the shift, the way I started, how I started turning my life around, it was I did over 4 years of my life in prison, and I got out when I was 23. Stayed out for about 2 years, and I went back to prison for DWI, and that was 20 days before my twin sons were born.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so that was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. That was enough for me. It was like, it was so painful, and it was like I sat there and I thought to myself, I was like, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm gonna be in and out of prison my entire life, or I'm gonna end up dead, and I'm not gonna be the father that I always wanted to be, that I didn't have growing up. So
Yeah.
that was enough for me to start moving in a different direction.
Yeah. I remember hearing when you were talking about it before, about how everybody's dream when they get out is they just want to like mow lawns, or they just want to like do something to contribute, but it's not necessarily anything really big. Did I get that right? Is that kind of how it is sometimes?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of I haven't been in the women's prison, obviously, but a lot of guys in there that really just haven't been exposed to much to what's really possible, and so they're just wanting any little thing, any little opportunity.
Yeah. And what do you feel like is different between somebody like you who decided just to, go for something bigger, and somebody who doesn't do that and it kind of stays stuck?
That's a really good question. It's something that I still try and ponder and try to figure out myself. But I really believe that I've always been a risk taker, and I still am. I just take calculated risks now. I need to get better at budgeting my money, because I started making money and I just bet on myself again and reinvest it right away. But so I've always been, I don't know, I get that thrill of kind of like living on the edge or whatever. That's just how I was I'm just made up, I guess. And that can hurt you, and that can also be very positive. You just gotta. I'm starting to learn ways to turn it into positives to channel it in the right direction. But I really don't know what, you know, my best explanation, I guess, for other guys that went through prison is just they weren't exposed to certain things, or weren't really sure what's possible. But at the same time, that's making an excuse, because
Right.
there's plenty of people that weren't, that end up still coming out of it. So I really can't give a definitive answer on that.
Well, what are some things that you were exposed to that you feel like helped you?
One thing I was really fortunate was having a amazing mother. She, even through all the heartache and trouble that I put her through, she was always had my back, and ever since I can remember, always filled me up with encouragement and confidence. And you know, it's crazy because I didn't know about this until recently, but I'm a huge Robert Greene fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I tell everybody, if I could be personally mentored by anybody in the world, it'd be him, because it's just his understanding of human nature is mind-boggling, and all of his books are just incredible. And I got to interview him, and but in one of his books, though, Human Nature, The Laws of Human Nature, he talks about how that mother and son relationship, where if the mother spoils the son, not with like material things, but like with
Right.
affection,
Mm-hmm.
that gives them a high confidence. And that's what my mom did ever since I could remember. And that's where I
Mm-hmm.
get my confidence from, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When I look at some people that I know, and I look at one kid versus the siblings, and the siblings just are doing horrible, like they're not functioning adults, you know, they're not high functioning adults. And then the younger sibling is like super achiever, you know, has a shit together, and, you know, very high functioning. And I look at like, what's the difference between all the kids? Well, the youngest was the youngest, and got to spend like 4 years at home, just him and his mom.
Mm.
And those like early years are so formative with the kids. And just those 4 years with the mom can, you know, made all the difference in that particular situation. And what a great example of why it's so important to like work on ourselves as parents, so that we can provide that gift. And I always look at with parenting, and maybe you've seen this with your kids too, where it really doesn't matter how they perform as kids. They're just observing the parents, and they may not use any of this stuff until they're like 30, but that doesn't matter, because they're going to pull these different tools and these different lessons and gifts at exactly when they need it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Um, so what did you notice, like any particular mental shifts that you made, you know, in the process of really changing your life around?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of different scenarios, but one I can that really I would never take this back, because it built so much strength of character and mental fortitude. But it was my first time in prison when I did over 4 years, and I was 2 years into it, and I was 21 at the time. I went in when I was 19. And at this time in my life, I'm in my rebellious stage. I don't even know when I'm coming home. I know I had a 7-year sentence. Like, I was just a knucklehead, and I
Mhm.
was trying to fit in with the cool kids, whatever. And so I'm down in the hole, which is the prison inside of the prison. Very little to no human interaction. You're in an 8x10 cell. You can walk 3 steps one way, 3 steps the next. It's cold, dark, dirty,
Mhm.
depressing. This is not a great place to be. And I was down there for some tattoo violations. Well, I get called back to the captain's office, and they informed me that my sister had passed away from a heroin overdose, that my mom
Mhm.
had to break into the bathroom with a screwdriver and found her dead on the floor. And so, you know, I was like shocked, and they gave me a 30-second phone call to my mom. We're bawling our eyes out to each other, and then the phone hangs up, and then I asked to be put in my cell by myself. And for the next 3 days, I didn't even get out of my bed to eat. I used the restroom. That was it. I sat there and cried, thought about all the mean things I ever said and did to my sister, the goodbye I'd never get to tell her. Was literally going crazy in there by myself. And I woke up on that third day, though, and I was like, I don't know what the reason why I'm still living. I don't even know when I'm going to be a free man again, but I'm still here. So there's got to be a reason. What can I do to find happiness and peace? And by asking that question, that got me to focus on what I could do in that moment to find happiness and peace. Obviously, I wasn't getting out of the hole. I'm trapped in there. I put myself in there, and there's no way I'm getting out. That door is metal and heavy, and there's no way I'm getting through it. And so there's not a lot of freedoms I had, but it got me to focus on the freedoms and the power that I did have. And I came up with this crazy routine where I literally dominated every single minute of the day. I had this routine of reading, working out at the same time, deep cleaning my cell. I mean, if you think OCD is crazy, it doesn't have anything on this. But and I found, and I was down there for 2 months by myself, and I found a peace of mind at a really dark time. And what's crazy about that, and I promise I'll be done talking right after this.
Oh,
but
no, that's good.
What was crazy about that is at that time, it's 2010. I'm 21. I don't know anything about personal development. Didn't even read books at the time. And then in 2017, I read a book, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And in that book, he talks about the quality questions that you ask yourself determine the quality of life you have. Anytime you hear a question, whether you're asking it or someone else is, your brain starts searching for the answer. It shifts your focus. So if I say, Sarah, what color are your shoes? You, me, and everybody listening to this podcast are thinking about, well, what color are Sarah's shoes right now,
Right.
And this is how it works. So the lesson from that is, in most situations when we're going through those dark times and it feels like the world's crumbling around us and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, we ask the wrong questions. And I'm guilty of this. Like, oh, why is this always got to happen to me? Like, that's the wrong question to ask. If you ask yourself, what can I do to find peace and happiness? What's the next best thing I could do to bring me one step closer to my goal? What's my next best move that I can make? Whatever it is, those questions are really powerful, and you just got to ask the empowering ones.
Yeah. Now, did you read Awaken the Giant Within before you asked that question, or was that just kind of validating what you had already done?
No, yeah. See, that was 2010. I didn't even know what self-help books were at that time. And then 7 years later, I read that in that book. I'm like, this is true because I did this. It's like, like I know this works, and so it kind of tied it all together for me.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So when you said you started reading some books, what was like do you remember the first book you read?
Yep, it was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I mean, I've read other books, but like when I got my start in entrepreneurship in network marketing, I'm obviously no longer in network marketing. Grateful for the industry because it taught me a lot of lessons, but it just wasn't my thing. But my mentor in there got me to start reading personal development books, which I'm super grateful for.
Yeah. Same with me. That's how I got started too. And same thing. It's funny how that happens.
Yeah, it's like an entrepreneurial school.
Exactly.
Like a little college.
It's such a good experience for kids, like for people just out of high school or something, like just to learn some basics.
Yeah.
So was there any like spiritual aspect to this process? Like, did you have any like spiritual moments or anything like that?
Yeah, I didn't dive into that spiritual part, but when I was in that hole though, and I said towards the end of that 2 months that I was in the hole and I got a peace of mind in a really dark time, I literally mean this. Like, that has been the most peaceful I've ever been in my life. Cause like, I'm not a religious person, but I'm real spiritual. And I believe in like a God and stuff like that. And I was praying, I was, going through some turmoil, and I started waking up down there just grateful to be alive, grateful that I had 3 meals coming through that chuck hole every day, grateful that I got 3 showers a week, like little stuff, the littlest things of ever. It was crazy. And that it was just, I don't know, I can't explain it in words. It was just like, kind of made me start appreciating, when that cliche is so true, you don't really appreciate what you have until it starts to go away.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I found, that when you tap into that higher power, it's like, it starts powering you, and like, it's like stuff just comes. Did you find that like stuff just started coming to you? Like like, do you think that it was just a coincidence that you stumbled upon thinking, win friends and influence people?
Nah, like, I'm with you on there. Like everything, I believe that I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, but I
Hmm.
also you got to take action. I don't
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
people that are like, oh, we're just gonna sit here and manifest stuff. No, that doesn't happen. But I'm a
Right.
big believer in like manifesting stuff like through belief, certainty,
Hmm.
and thoughts in the directions that you're putting yourself in, and actually taking the action. Things just come to you. It does all the time.
Yeah, awesome. And you had mentioned like you're naturally a risk taker and you kind of like living on the edge, but now you're making more like educated risks. You take more educated risks. What do you feel like has been the most positive risk that you've taken in the past couple of years?
Getting a title loan on my Chrysler Aspen when I was broke to get into a mastermind to learn how to craft offers online. Now, ahead of time, it was a $4,000 title loan. You know, the interest rates are crazy on those.
Yeah.
And, you know, beforehand, everybody would be like, oh, that's a stupid decision. Don't do that. And it probably is in a lot of cases. But if you want it bad enough and you're willing to burn the boats and put everything on the line and go all in, I did that. And it didn't pan out for like 4 months. And man, it was brutal. But by getting into that mastermind, I learned how to craft offers online. And then after that, the last 8 months, I built a six-figure business because of that decision.
Amazing. Amazing. And it's not like, you know, there are a lot of ways to take risks with money, you know, but when you take a risk, like an investment risk, and it's something that's going to move you forward in some way, um, in my experience, it's like you can't really go wrong with that. Like even if it feels really scary sometimes, um, you know, as long as you keep moving your feet forward and you keep taking action, it's gonna come back to you at some point.
You know what? I love that too. And so it's so true. And but it comes down to this. So like, you can't just take that risk and then like, oh, I did it. I got a title loan, so I'm going to win now. No, cause it's
Right.
because that's just the easy part. Then
Yeah.
comes the hard part of actually, you know, the implementing part of it. But I think it boils down to really, how bad do you really want to, are you willing to like push all your chips forward and go
Hmm.
all in on it? And sometimes, you know, there's been cases where people do that and it doesn't pan out for them.
Hmm.
So it's like, huh. But I mean, if it would it's hard to, because some people, you know, they can't, they're just like, I don't know, they're not the risk taker type, you know,
Right,
because of
right.
different type of psychology makeup. And this is something that I always try to get to the root of. It's like, what separates certain people, you know, that are able to do this versus the people that aren't? Why are they different? Like, that's the type of stuff that fascinates me,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, to get back to the point though, I'm sorry, I started going down a rabbit hole.
No, it's cool.
But yeah, you have to roll the dice. You have to take some type of risk. You can't just play
Right.
it safe, because if you play it safe, you're gonna have, just unless you just want what a no risk taking life offers, and
Hmm.
that's what you got to do.
Right, exactly. Especially for, you know, the viewers and listeners with the Vibrant Life podcast, you know, we're like high achieving business owners and authors and speakers, like people who are out there like living dreams and making stuff happen in the world, changing the world. And you can't play it safe when you're doing that. You know, you
Yeah.
can't, like, that's not how that works. So, so yeah, taking those risks, and especially like you said, calculated risks, where it's like you really look at is the, well, what do you look at when as you've been taking risks, like, and trying to be a little more mindful with it?
Yeah. So like at that point in time when I made that decision, it was have you I don't know if you ever read I don't know if you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Dynamite. You
Yeah.
know, he talks about in there, he's like the 3 feet from gold, how most people quit
Hmm.
right before they break through because it gets the hardest.
Yeah.
So I made that investment. My mindset at that time was like, I tried everything. I invested in all these different things, and I made some bad investments that didn't
Hmm.
pan out. And I said, I know this is the one, because I made enough bad ones to know good from bad. And I was like, this is it. Like, this guy knows how to do this stuff, and he's a
Right.
complete example of what I want to model to. And so I was like, I'm doing it. And then I made the investment, and then we got together on a game plan, and that initial first game plan didn't pan out, and things got so freaking rough. Like bills were backed up. We're getting water shut off and all this stuff. And it's like, ugh. And out of that pain with my back up against the wall, like there's no way, you can't go, there's no more going back. It's like you either go forward, and at that point, anybody gets in your way, you're going to run them over. Because you have to at that point. That's why I always say being underprivileged is a privilege, because you're hungrier than everybody, and you're more down to reality, and you'll outwork anybody. But yeah, so that was the mind frame then. But now that I'm in a completely different spot, now I make good money now, but I still it's weird, because you'll start making more money, but you'll still find a way to spend it all. And for us entrepreneurs, everybody that's listening to this podcast too, the high achiever, they go out and get her, your tendency is to bet on yourself and throw it back in and reinvest in yourself into other mentors and masterminds. That's exactly what I did. And so now it's like, all right, I'm making all this money, we're paying all the salary, but there's still no extra money, because we're reinvesting, which I could probably talk to Dan Nicholson, which I am, and do better with managing the money, but I'm not the finance guy. But long story short, though, now it's like, I don't know, I'm always thinking of playing the long game and trying to do everything possible to win.
Yeah. Awesome. That was a huge mind shift for me too, was really thinking about the long game. And that just takes the pressure off. It's like, I don't give a shit what things look like right now. I don't care if it looks like everything's burning, falling, breaking, because I know what's on the other side of it. And I feel like you can anticipate it a little bit more when you're thinking about the long game.
Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else you want to share with us? Anything that is on your mind you haven't talked about yet? Anything you're looking forward to, excited about?
I do like to spread this message. So I would just like to say this one thing. So you see it all the time. You'll see people online, and they'll talk about how their business is mission driven, and they're all about out to make a contribution. And that's cool, especially if it's genuine. But you see a lot of fake people online that you could read right through. This person doesn't really give a shit about that. They're just putting on the show or whatever. And so what drives me, what gets how I got from prison, used to be a heroin addict, crackhead, going to prison at the low, no hope at the end of the tunnel, to where I'm at now. It was having that strong enough, you don't have to know how to do everything, but you got to have a strong reason why you're doing it.
Right.
Mine started off was to be back into my kid's life, but it's grown to so much more since then, and where it is now. Because let's be honest, there's going to be days where you're just not motivated, where you're not. We're all human beings. There's days where I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do shit. I don't want to do nothing. I'm pissed off, whatever. It happens. And so the days that you're not motivated, that having that strong enough reason why is what's going to push you through. And for me, that is, being able to really impact our recidivism rate of people going to prison. Because, man, people that put themselves go to prison, they put themselves there. I'm not taking the responsibility away, but the system is broken, that the recidivism rates are ridiculous. The resources that are offered, having gone through them myself, don't help at all. They actually make things harder. Right. And then they teach you to be dependent on the system. I mean, welfare, food stamps, also, that's like giving you a fish. It's not teaching you how to fish. And so our mission is where we hire convicted felons, guys and gals, not all, but ones that are serious about changing their life, that, okay, I made a mistake, I'm ready to move on from that. And we offer those individuals, give them a job for one, because you can't even get a job when you come out. So now they got money to provide for themselves and their family. And then they got to read specific books and go through programs that help develop their character and their personal development. And then for the guys and gals that are cut out to be entrepreneurs, boom, they can fly out the nest. And for the ones that aren't, they can continue working for us and get a pay raise. And so our ultimate mission goal is a 9% recidivism rate or lower nationwide. It's a crazy goal if you look at the recidivism rates nationwide, but that's our goal and we're sticking to it.
What is it currently?
It's different in different states. Like
Okay.
Missouri, where I'm from, in St. Louis, the last one was like 47%, and that's
Wow.
just based off of 3 years of them coming out, of them going. Recidivism is based off of after 3 years of coming out, do they come back to prison? That's not
Okay.
count. So what happens if they stayed out for 5 years and come back? It's not even taking those into
Right,
factor.
right.
What happens if they die? A lot of them are dying from drug overdoses, are
Hmm.
going out and killing, or getting killed, whatever. So it's just the system. It's built on money, and it's
Hmm.
broken. And I don't know, but yeah, that's what I'm pretty passionate about.
Awesome. You know what? I'd like to talk with you after at some point because I have something that might contribute to that.
Awesome, appreciate that.
I've kind of done a little bit with that in the past, and it's reminding me. Um, so yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for being here. This was amazing conversation. I definitely, was really inspired by talking with you about this. I think everybody else was too. So you guys drop a comment, like, share the video. If you're listening to the podcast, feel free to reach out. I'm going to put Zach's information in the notes so you can, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Really the podcast. That's what we're really passionate about. And if
Yeah.
you want to check that out, it's probably on any podcast platform that you listen to podcasts to. But to
Mm-hmm.
make it real simple, you can go to underdogempowerment.com. Right there on
Okay.
the front page, there's a place for you to subscribe. Hope to see you guys over there. And thank you, Sarah, for having me on the
Awesome.
show.
Sounds great. Cool. All right. Talk to you guys soon.